Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. A couple interesting pieces of news out of OpenAI today, starting with an agent story. OpenAI is reportedly planning to release an autonomous agent next year. Now, if you spend any time around the AI space, you'll know that basically since ChatGPT launched, we've been on the verge of the agent era. The idea of moving from just these super powerful assistants to agents actually doing human replacement style work is something with such dramatic implications for the structure of business and society and what we can accomplish that it captures a huge amount of energy. In fact, probably a disproportionate amount of energy relative to how far the technology actually is. And yet it's clear that the major labs have been making nudges in this direction. And so what have we learned so far about this theoretical agent from OpenAI? The agent, which they've codenamed Operator, can control a computer to complete tasks independently, including coding, shopping, and booking flights. According to Bloomberg sources, staff were told in a meeting on Wednesday that the tool would be released as a research preview in January. That would mean that by early next year, we could have competing computer use agents from Anthropic, Google, and OpenAI. There are also already more limited agents available from companies like Microsoft, Salesforce, and a host of startups. So far, we've seen two different approaches to fully fledged computer use. Google's agent is sandboxed in the browser window, making it more limited but potentially more performant. Anthropic's agent, which is the only one generally available, was trained to control a mouse and a full computer interface, so can theoretically carry out a much broader variety of tasks. In practice, the experience is still rather limited, with the company admitting the agent is slow, cumbersome, and error-prone. Bloomberg sources said that OpenAI is working on several agent-related products, and the one that is nearest to completion is a general-purpose tool that executes tasks in a web browser. Sam Altman has been hyping agents as the next big thing over the past few months. In October, during a Reddit AMA, he said, "We will have better and better models, but I think the thing that will feel like the next giant breakthrough will be agents." At OpenAI's Dev Day, Chief Product Officer Kevin Weil said, "I think 2025 is going to be the year that agentic systems finally hit the mainstream." The Verge writes, AI labs face mounting pressure to monetize their costly models, especially as incremental improvements may not justify higher prices for users. The hope is that autonomous agents are the next breakthrough product, a ChatGPT scale innovation that validates the massive investment in AI development. So what do people think about this? Well, Elvis on X writes, "Computer use is the kind of capability I expected OpenAI to launch first. This time, it looks like they will be following Anthropic. I'm still hoping for a unique twist and huge improvements. I think there's a lot to learn from custom GPTs and search. One thing is certain, 2025 will be the year of AI agents. I never bet against OpenAI on these things, especially because O1 for data generation, as was used in ChatGPT search, will play a key role here. They have a huge advantage. My asks, make it easy to launch agents, make it easy to use and provide feedback, versatile with tools and integrations, reduce latency, and reduce costs." Others shared their skepticism. Illy on X writes, "I hate how companies always flex their AI agents that can, quote, book a flight for you as if that was not the worst use case for AI automation ever." This, by the way, is something that is a personal pet peeve of mine as well. I do not need an agent to book me a flight or to order me food. I know that it is just demonstration of capabilities, but I do think it shows how early we are that those are the things that people always point to. Others are thinking about the implications for various domains of the world. Callum McClark writes, "For the learning world, click and complete means we must shift from click and complete courses to gathering meaningful learning metrics, a shift that should have happened a long time ago. But now hopefully these agents will be the final nail in the coffin of bad L&D courses." There are also questions of the business model of agents which are swirling. Sully Omar writes, "How do we properly price agents, especially when they keep getting more capable, they do days of work in 1 hour, and they work 24/7? We have no market reference. Is it compute per hour per task?" Adam Silverman of Agent Ops writes, "I think as agents scale over the next 5 years, pricing will be compute plus 10% margin for specific use cases. When OpenAI and others release agents, they will only charge compute. There's a huge opportunity for startups to capitalize on charging significantly more in the interim." Now, going back to this Verge quote, the mounting pressure to monetize costly models, and the hope that autonomous agents are the next breakthrough product, I think whereas ChatGPT and Claude and the like have been easily as much a consumer innovation as they have been an enterprise innovation, really transforming and hitting both equally, and by some measurements, consumers more, I believe that where we're going to see the value from agents is absolutely in vertical, highly specific enterprise tasks. I think that getting agents very good at very specific repetitive tasks that happen over and over and over again all the time inside specific companies is much easier than getting good at very general purpose use. And I think that that's where we're going to see a lot of benefit. Now, it is still very early. What we have available and what's production ready is still very nascent. But if I were a betting man, that is where I would be placing my chips, that the impact will be in very specific verticals within the enterprise. Second OpenAI story, the company has outlined a grand policy proposal to bolster artificial intelligence in the US in an effort to stay ahead of China. Yesterday at a think tank event in Washington, OpenAI's head of global affairs, Chris Lahane, presented what they're calling their official blueprint for US infrastructure. The company said the plan was, quote, as ambitious as the 1956 National Interstate and Defense Highways Act. They outlined AI economic zones, co-created between state and federal governments, which would give the states an incentive to speed up permitting and approval for AI infrastructure. They envisioned constructing solar and wind power, as well as gaining clearance to restart unused nuclear plants. OpenAI wrote, states that provide subsidies or other support for companies launching infrastructure projects could require that a share of the new compute be made available to their public universities to create AI research labs and developer hubs aligned with their key commercial sectors. OpenAI also wrote a bill called the National Transmission Highway Act. The legislation would expand power, fiber, and natural gas pipeline connectivity across the nation. The company argues that we need, quote, new authority and funding to unblock the planning, permitting, and payment for transmission. And they noted that existing procedures aren't keeping up with AI-driven demand. The document noted that, quote, the government can encourage private investors to fund high-cost energy infrastructure projects by committing to purchase energy and other means that lessen credit risk. OpenAI notably views the Midwest and Southwest as key areas for infrastructure expansion given the plentiful land for construction. Focusing on these areas would also ensure that the jobs and prosperity of this wave of technology aren't just concentrated on the coasts. Now, the premise of all of this is that without government investment and the removal of red tape, the US will lose its lead in AI to China. The OpenAI proposal stated, given the stakes, we need to think big, act big, and build big. These decisions determine whether a nation leads or lags in technological innovation, often with far-reaching consequences for economic competitiveness and national security. The history of the US, they wrote, is one of iconic infrastructure projects that move the country forward. The auto industry, the Tennessee Valley Authority, the Manhattan Project, the interstate highway system. One of the things that we've been tracking a lot recently is the growing push to nuclear driven by the AI industry. And it's notable in that regard, and something that OpenAI points out, that China has built more nuclear power capacity over the last 10 years than the US has built over the last 40. Speaking to that rapid deployment, OpenAI's head of global policy, Chris Lahane, said, we don't have a choice. We do have to compete with that. Now, the big remaining question is whether these kinds of policies would be adopted by the Trump administration. OpenAI says they plan to work with the Trump White House on this agenda. So far, all we know about Trump's AI policy, however, is that the president-elect has pledged to repeal the Biden AI executive order, stating that, quote, in its place, Republicans support AI development rooted in free speech and human flourishing. That's about the extent of the details we have so far. Then again, slashing red tape and building out a ton of energy production seems in line with campaign promises. During an appearance in July, Trump said, we will be creating so much electricity that you'll be saying, please, please, President, we don't want any more electricity. We can't stand it. You'll be begging me, no more electricity, sir. We have enough. We have enough. So who knows? I think what's pretty clear is that this is coming into the vacuum of whatever the repeal of the executive order looks like. As Andrew Curran points out, this blueprint is being presented to influence whatever form the new regulations will take. Still, the earnings nugget may have summed it up best when they wrote, this is the new Manhattan Project. Interesting times ahead. But with that, we will wrap today's AI Daily Brief. Appreciate you listening as always, and until next time, peace